What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here for PackersNews.com, live on Facebook. End of the day on Thursday. We've heard from Mike McCarthy. The locker room has come and gone. Assistant coaches are speaking, have spoken, but I wanted to talk to you fine folks. See what's on your minds heading into this game, the final game of the 2017 regular season, mercifully coming to an end for the Green Bay Packers Sunday in Detroit at 1 p.m. Eastern. Kyler, hello. Thank you for joining us. Packers injury list grows longer. Thursday, injury list included one Mike Daniels, who had not been on the injury list prior. He was a limited participant. I'll be surprised now if he goes on Sunday. Sean, hello, how are you? Jem from Cali, what's up? Thanks for joining us. Aaron Joseph Harper Jr., hello, how are you? So who is sitting and who is starting at this point? Eli, that's a good question. It's going to be tough to sort through until we get to Sunday morning when we see that inactive list. But sure wouldn't expect any of the starters who missed the game on Saturday night to be up for this one. Sure doesn't look like Jordy Nelson or Devontae Adams will go. Funnily enough, another development is Geronimo Allison has missed all week with an illness. So it's a possibility he might not be able to go, which would leave you with a wide receiving core of Michael Clark, Jeff Janis, and Trevor Davis as your kind of three behind Randall Cobb. So that will be a mixing and matching unit, no doubt. Have to think they'll go along the offensive line the way they ended the game against the Vikings with Lucas Patrick at right guard and Justin McCray at right tackle. Kimberly with the question on everybody's mind, do you see Dom Capers getting fired? Yes, I do. McCarthy has had a couple extra weeks to prepare for this, given that they have been out of the playoff race. In years past, he's always taken his time doing a complete overview of the team, both players and coaches, going through everything. You have to think with a few extra weeks to prepare for that, he'll be set to move quickly, maybe not Sunday night, but maybe Monday morning in relieving Capers of his duties. Now, that's just guesswork on my part. I haven't heard anything. I don't know anything for sure. But I do think, given where they are in their careers, where McCarthy is heading into the last year of his deal, and the just complete regression of the defense the last two seasons, I do think it will be the move that McCarthy makes. Jeff Janis with a breakout game. Well, Eric, I don't think you can call anything a breakout game after that Arizona game. That was, I don't think he'll ever do anything that big ever again in his career. But I think he'll definitely get a few more looks, no doubt about that. Why does Big Mike take so long to make a Capers decision? If you're talking about why has he kept him around for so long, I tend to think, and this is again just my guess, that he thinks Capers has done as much as he can with the talent he's been given. That's not an excuse. I think that's just how McCarthy views it. That said, I think you can't look at this season, the problems getting guys lined up, down in and down out, the constant communication errors, the being taken advantage of again and again, week after week, in the same way by different offensive coordinators. That all comes back to coaching. That all comes back to scheme. That all comes back to Dom. And I just can't imagine Mike McCarthy, even as stubborn as he can be, can turn a blind eye to that this time around. Do you think Jordy will get waived? No, I don't. I think possibly they'll talk to him about taking some kind of salary reduction. Now, maybe if he flat out refuses, then possibly, maybe they move on from him. But I doubt it. He's still got a very good connection with Aaron Rodgers. He can still be an asset to the offense. I want to see more of Davis as a receiver. Yeah, well, I tell you what, that deep ball that he didn't even try for the other night, I know he most likely lost it in the lights, but that's a brutal look. He is your burner. He's your guy that you want to get downfield, and then he has an opportunity for a big play, and he literally let it fly right by him. That's tough. That's a tough look. But I think Sunday you will see a lot more Trevor Davis, and this is his chance. You got to make the most of these opportunities, and he's got a big one coming. Dez to the back, Tommy. That's not going to help. Dom needs to go. Do you want to think that's in the cards? Do you think Thompson goes after some big defensive picks? Oh, do I think he goes after some big defensive picks in the draft? I tell you what, he's got to find a pass rusher. There's no two ways about it. I don't know if it's done via the draft or through free agency or how he will attack it, but there's zero question what this team needs more than anything. Desperately needs someone who can win a one-on-one on the outside. Jordy will probably end up with the Patriots. Nice, I like it. It's not really their type, but you never know. What does our secondary look like this time next year? I tend to think you'll probably have Demarius Randall and Kevin King as your, maybe not 1 and 2, but I think Randall will probably be in the starting rotation, probably in the slot. The question is who will be opposite King on the perimeter. Maybe they bring back Devon House, although I doubt it. Maybe one of the other young guys, maybe a Lindsey Pepkins, does enough to warrant a starting spot, but I tend to think they'll either draft another corner and or look through free agency. Too bad Davis has Hundley throwing to him. Well, I mean, Hundley put a perfect ball right on him in the game against Minnesota. You know, all Davis has to do is reach out and catch it. I mean, you can't put that on Hundley. It's like the back shoulder throw to Michael Clark in the first series. It's a perfect throw. Or the touchdown pass that Clark dropped. Those are perfect throws from Hundley. I get everyone wants to pile on Hundley and talk about how terrible he is, and he definitely has his shortcomings, but man, people are way too quick to call out Hundley for stuff that is not his fault. I hope they go outside the team for a defensive coordinator. Zach, I tend to think they would. I know a lot of people have asked if they would elevate either Joe Witt Jr. or Darren Perry or one of those guys. I tend to think, McCarthy will see it as a chance to reset the defensive side of the ball. I don't think they'd want a continuation of what they've been doing scheme-wise. No, that's, again, just a guess. Please sign a veteran corner in free agency. Josh, that's a distinct possibility. Now, I don't ever think they're going to jump in feet first on the first, 24, 48 hours of free agency where the ridiculous money is spent. But, there's a possibility they could search for a value there in the free agency waters. So if Capers is gone, how does McCarthy survive 2 home shutouts? Because he was not the one who picked the quarterback that he was forced to work with. I know everyone wants to, again, talk about McCarthy and what he has done and hasn't done and assign him all the blame, but Ted Thompson, it's hard for me to look at Ted Thompson showing Mike McCarthy the door when the biggest reason they're missing the playoffs this season is because the backup quarterback that had to come in and play a bunch of games wasn't up to snuff. That's on Thompson. It's not on McCarthy. Do you think Kevin Green as defensive coordinator? No, Aaron, I don't see that happening. He left the organization for a reason. I know it's never really kind of come out what the actual reasoning was. I know the stated reason was that he wanted to spend more time with his family. It sure feels like there's more underneath that smoke, more fire there. And, it's no secret he came back and he worked with the Jets. I tend to think he left Green Bay for a reason, and I'd be surprised if Mike McCarthy had him back. Marvin Lewis for defensive coordinator. I think Lewis has made it pretty clear that he wants to go to a front office position somewhere. I mean, he's mentioned it more than once in public. Stepping back into a defensive coordinator role feels a little backwards. I think he's going to end up in the front office, if not in Cincinnati, then maybe someplace else. So could Jordy really be gone after 2018? Yes, definitely after 2018. I don't think it'll be after this season, but after 2018, absolutely. When will Capers leave if he is asked to? Probably Monday, if he is asked to. Do you think Bulaga moves to guard? No, absolutely not. He is not a guard, and he's at the end of his career. He's not going to make that switch. Will McCarthy go to the college ranks? Anywhere at ESPN will college? Will he go to the college ranks? You mean for coaches? It's possible, I suppose. He's done that before for positional coaches, but I highly doubt he would pick a coordinator from the college ranks. Lovie Smith for defensive coordinator. That'd be interesting, Mike. Lovie did a great job against Mike throughout the years when he was coach of the Bears. Would he make the jump from Illinois? Possibly. What kind of any compensation pick will they get for Bennett? Because they cut him by week 10, they will get what I think is probably a 5th round pick. The compensatory formula is quote unquote secret, although there are pockets of the internet that seem to have figured it out. But because they cut him prior to week 10, the rule states that they get that comp hit, that he now once again counts towards the compensatory formula. So he should net them a 5th round pick. What will Ty do next year? Position? I think he'll stick at running back, but it really doesn't matter what they call him. He's a switchblade, a really versatile guy. Whether they play him just strictly at running back or use him at wide receiver and running back, it doesn't really matter. The question is how can they use him best as far as using him to dictate coverage by opposing defenses, because that's where he's really valuable. And I tend to think you'll see him a lot on 3rd down. They ran him a lot on 1st down earlier in the season. I don't think that's the best use of his talents. I think using him as a 3rd down back, using him as a guy who you can split out if you see you can get an advantageous matchup at the line of scrimmage. That Aaron Rodgers does that better than anybody as far as reading things pre-snap and getting them into favorable matchups. I think Ty is a real asset in that regard. Gus Bradley for defensive coordinator? I keep seeing this question. Possibly, I guess, maybe. I don't know if McCarthy has any ties there, but it's a possibility. What are the Packers' top 3 draft/free agent needs? Pass rush, and pass rush. And maybe a tight end. That's where I would put that. Hey, Wendy, how are you? Keep Ty in the slot. Matthew, I think he'll definitely play there a lot. Will Callahan take any snaps this Sunday? Patrick, I think only if Brett Hundley is hurt. Do they extend McCarthy or let 2018 play out? I would be very surprised if they let McCarthy go into 2018 as a lame duck. I tend to think you'll see some kind of extension this offseason. Maybe not a monster one, maybe not a multiple-year extension, but at least a 1-year deal to give him 2 years left on his contract so the lame duck status isn't hanging over him the entire time. Now, of course, we've seen that before. Ted Thompson did that with Mike Sherman when he came on board, gave him a 1-year extension. We all know how that turned out. But I would be very surprised if they let that be a talking point throughout the season. Aaron Rodgers doesn't seem to understand. There were situations where no matter what, they should have run. Oh, are you talking about the Carolina game? Yeah, I mean, I know McCarthy did indicate that he had wanted, he thought there should have been a few times when, Aaron Jones should have got the ball more. But that said, Carolina blitzed them more than any team has this entire season. And of course, that's not surprising, seeing as they wanted to get after Rodgers in his first game back, try and, confuse him. He was rusty. Coming back first time in 8 weeks that he played. I think saying Aaron Rodgers doesn't understand is a little grandiose. You might want to walk that back, because Aaron Rodgers has forgotten more football than you and I put together ever will have possession of. So, Aaron Rodgers doesn't understand? Ooh, I think Aaron Rodgers understands. I think everyone likes the 3-4, huh? Me too. Josh has really gained steam around the fan base. I saw Peter Bukowski's piece. I put it in the Morning Buzz this morning for the switch to a 4-3. I think it's possible. I think there are pieces there. I know there are guys in the personnel group at 1265 Lombardi who would agree with that assessment. I'm not of the opinion that it's that automatic or obvious. I don't look at any of these guys with the Packers and think they're going to be a dominant player as a 4-3 under end, or a guy who's going to be able to stick his hand in the dirt as a defensive end in a 4-3 and just get after the passer. They're going to struggle to rush the passers, whether they're outside linebackers or defensive ends. And to me, that's what it's all about. I don't care what they run, but they got to get to the quarterback. And right now, they don't have a guy who can win a one-on-one on a consistent basis. And until they get that guy, hell, they can run a 2-4, they can run a 3-4, a 4-3, and they can run a 1-10 for all I care. Until you find someone who can win, it doesn't matter what scheme you're running. Will we let Clay Matthews go? No, James, I doubt that. I think they'll extend his contract and reduce his salary cap number next year, which is significant, no doubt. But I'd be very surprised if they got rid of him. He's still one of the most athletic guys on that defense, and he's still a very good football player. Even though he doesn't make the highlight reel plays that you're probably used to from his early days, he's still a very good football player on a defense that needs every bit of athleticism and playmaking that he can get. Williams will be our starter next year. You mean Jamal Williams? Yeah, there's a good chance of that. Daniels and Clark would get to the quarterback more, though. If they were in a 4-3, possibly. We can't say that for sure, though. I mean, they've given plenty of jet rushing opportunities in the 3-4. They have to win their one-on-ones as well. And now Clark has done a better job of that of late, although one of his sacks in this last game was on a loop around end that just got missed by the Vikings offensive line. But I don't think you can just sit there and say, oh, they're going to be in a 4-3, therefore they're going to be able to rush the quarterback more. They're allowed to rush the quarterback quite a bit in this defense, and they're not winning a ton of one-on-ones regardless of that. Now, I know we all saw Mike Daniels there wrecking the Seahawks in week 1, and we got all excited, but that certainly hasn't played out that way for the rest of the season. And you do wonder how much injuries have kind of played a part there. And the tape shows guys definitely taking on, lots of double teams, especially in the run game. Obviously, that's their job in a 3-4, but they're going to have to be asked to do that sometimes in a 4-3 as well. Again, I don't think it really matters what they're running if they can't find a guy who can tilt the field as a pass rusher. Does the Pack part ways with Hundley? Nate, no, I think they'll keep him around. He's got 1 year left on his deal. He's dirt cheap. He knows the offense. They know he can come in and play. Albeit, I do think they'll bring in some competition, probably through free agency, but maybe through the draft. But, I don't think they'll get rid of him. Aaron Rodgers should pack his stuff and leave. Why? He's got a great situation in Green Bay. Everyone thinks, Rodgers obviously is the best player on the team and one of the best players in the league. But it's not like the entire team hasn't been built around him. He's given ample wide receiver talent throughout the years. Thompson selects wide receivers every single year practically in the draft. He's got one of the best offensive lines in the league in front of him as his pass protectors. I just don't. I love this idea that Rodgers should leave. What, and go play in Cleveland? Who are the people who would probably pay him? If he were on the street and decided to leave and said, I'm holding out and I want to be traded or whatever. Well, who do you think is going to go get him? A bad team. People just, this whole the Packers are the Browns without Rodgers. I understand that thinking and I understand why you jump there. But there's so much more to it than just, Rodgers does it all. I'd have to break the internet because I'd be talking forever about the differences. They got rid of Sunday Night Football. They did for this week. The NFL decided not to flex anything into that Sunday night slot, which I think makes sense. There's no real drama as far as will someone make the playoffs or not. There's a lot of playoff seeding to deal with, but nothing huge and momentous to play out on Sunday, so I'm not surprised. Michael Clark replacement for Jordy? That's a bit of a stretch. I think Michael Clark is an intriguing prospect. He's incredibly raw. If he can build on this kind of action he's gotten here at the late end of the season, come back at the start of the off-season workouts and build into training camp and get some kind of rapport, not only with Rodgers, but just as a wide receiver in general, knowing stuff pre-snap, post-snap, reading coverages the same way as the quarterback, that goes big. That goes a long way in this offense. I mean, that's one of the reasons Jeff Janis hasn't been able to get on the field, because he just hasn't excelled in that part of the game. If Clark can do that, then, possibly he'll see more playing time. But as far as replacing Jordy, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. And even if they did let Jordy go, I think his natural replacement would be Geronimo Allison at this point. Was Ted Thompson doing locust flying out of the mummy mouth impression? Oh, James, I don't know. Thursday Night Football all done next year? No, not that they've said. It'll be back. Now, they still have to announce who's going to be carrying it, but I don't think it's going away anytime soon. It won't go away until they do the next collective bargaining agreement at the earliest. I think that's when you would see kind of a push, maybe by the players, to try and get rid of it, but that's a ways away. Do you think they need to get rid of Thursday Night Football? A bunch of Thursday Night Football questions. I think Thursday Night Football is abhorrent and terrible and god-awful when you ask guys to play a game on Sunday and then turn around on 2 days rest and play again. I think it flies in the face of what the league wants to tout as its commitment to player safety. It is absolutely absurd. Now, obviously, they're making a lot of money, and that's why they do it. And that's why the players signed off on it, because it's another revenue stream that puts a lot of money into the coffers, and that's more money for not just the owners, but the players as well. That said, I think the quality of play is, on the whole, much less... the quality of play in the NFL is bad as it is. Now, Thursday night just makes it worse. Yes, you can find the odd, compelling game on Thursday night where things line up and it's actually enjoyable and entertaining. But for the most part, Thursday Night Football is terrible and should be abolished. It won't be anytime soon because, like I said, it makes them lots of money, but I think it's terrible. Your opinion on Thompson's performance, please. Kent, I would highly recommend you go check out my latest podcast, which just went up at PackersNews.com. Nagler's Never Right. It just went up. It's on the front page. Check it out. I talk all about it. What are some rule changes expected during the offseason, like replays and more? I know they're going to look at the catch rule. There's zero doubt about that. Now, whether they actually make any meaningful changes, I'd be absolutely shocked. I think what they'll probably do is what they did last time. They'll look at it. They'll make more changes to the language of the rule and talk about how they want to emphasize different things more. But actual changes won't happen, and it'll be ridiculous because the catch rule is an abomination, especially in regards to the end zone. I mean, everything else, fine. I'll deal with it. Okay. But the NFL has lawyered up the rule book so badly in the end zone in regards to the going to the ground stuff, and that's all coming off of the Calvin Johnson catch in 2009. It's beyond ridiculous. It used to be, time was, if you possess the ball in your two hands inside the plane of the goal line, which John Madden always reminded us, extended around the world, if you were standing anywhere in the end zone, 1 knee equals 2 feet, etc., in the end zone, ball in hand, that's a touchdown. And the moment that happens, everything else that comes after it should be immaterial. That's how it used to be. But then the Calvin Johnson thing happened, and the NFL freaked out and totally overreacted and overcorrected a problem that didn't need correcting, and now we are where we are. The combination of the lawyering up of the rules, combined with all the technology they have now with replay and what have you, and the ability to go back and look at everything in super slow-mo and extremely close-up, etc., has ruined any kind of enjoyment you can get from it. Because now when a guy makes a catch and an official makes a signal and there's that initial kind of burst of energy throughout the stadium, everybody stops and goes, oh, now we got to see, is it going to be the replay? And then we go through this whole exercise nearly every single time of looking, rewinding, Zapruder filming it, and it just sucks the joy and any possible ability to, kind of feel the flow of the game just right out of the stadium. And right out of your living room if you're watching it at home. It's the worst. It's the worst way to consume a product. And I can't imagine why the NFL continues down that road. Somebody with some sense has to get a hold of somebody at 345 Park and get this sorted out because it's absurd. What do you do in the offseason? Write about politics? No. I write about the Green Bay Packers. And I talk about the Green Bay Packers much like I am right now. You don't think they need defensive backs in 2018? Green Bay sticks in this area? I'm not sure where I said that. I do think they'll have to look to draft one and or look to free agency. But I do think the development of Demarius Randall, along with the expected return of Kevin King, that's a good base to work off of. But yeah, no, they'll definitely need to invest somewhere along the line at that position. Targeting rule, Brent, I think it's coming. I'm not a big fan of it. But you look at that hit by Thomas Davis on Devontae Adams, and you see why it might be necessary, because it's clear the message has not gotten through to players, and even if it has, lots of players are just going to disregard it. You got a lot of thugs out there talking about, I'm going to headhunt any way I want, but blah, blah, blah. The whole point of this is to keep players safe, and if players don't care about keeping each other safe, the only way you're going to get to these guys is if you take away their playing time. Take away some game checks, fine. That doesn't really get to them. But if you take away playing time, if you take away games, then maybe the message will start to get through. My biggest problem with the targeting rules is it's punitive on both the teams and fans after the fact. it's not going to make anyone safer if they've already done the act. But now you've thrown them out of there. It just seems like a reaction to the problem of brain injury and CTE, etc. Just penalizing guys after those hellacious hits. I don't know, that's hard for me to reconcile as far as that's going to solve the problem. Will Ted Thompson do crazy draft? Is this his last? I don't know about crazy draft, and it's not his last. The draft next year, after 2018, will be his last. Do you think Davante Adams will be in the Pro Bowl next year? Yes, if he's in Green Bay. Time to eject them and take away money on targeting rule. I think it's coming. The last collective bargaining contract took away practice and pads, and the game looks horrible until week 4. Yeah, well, there's no doubt that, teams definitely improve throughout that first month. I don't think it's all on the collective bargaining agreement, but I do think it has had really negative consequences in regards to the quality of play. Ask any coach, he'll back that idea up. The players wanted those concessions, and they got them, and I think it is good in some instances as far as, letting guys rest, recover, etc. But the off-season stuff is really lame to me as far as, coaches can't contact players between certain months and all of that nonsense. They can't practice. They can only do stuff in the weight room, and then they can only do stuff in the meeting rooms, and then they can take the field, but only in certain situations. I hate all that. Like, come on. It's their job. Let them work. Targeting rules should definitely be implemented in the NFL. Adam, I think it's on its way. Your thoughts on Mark Murphy? I think he hasn't really had to make a monster football decision, and that time is coming soon. Until he makes it, there's not much to say. He's done a really good job on the business side of things. He's done a great job ushering in Titletown, and that's what you want as your CEO and head of the franchise. That's his job. But he is soon going to have to make a decision on his general manager, and I'll be interested to see which way he goes. Who are you for sure is leaving at the end of the season? Am I for sure leaving it? No. No one. No one for sure. I think Dom Capers will be fired, but that's only a guess. Think Winston Moss can take over Dom Capers' duty as a defensive coordinator? No. Nags having a beer as soon as I'm done, Sam. Which, by the way, I'm going to take 1 or 2 more questions. I'm going to go have said beer. Do you see Edgar Bennett being retained? Yeah, Eric, I do. I think, Bennett's been with McCarthy for a long time now. Now, there are always surprises every offseason. Maybe he gets let go, but I'd be very surprised. Russ Ball have a chance at Ted Thompson's job? Nick? Yes, absolutely. I think he's the guy that not a lot of people kind of lean toward first. I've already seen here today a lot of Elliott Wolf questions, and I think that's kind of the natural assumption for most fans, but I actually think Russ Ball has a much better chance of landing that job than Elliott does. But again, going back to the question about Mark Murphy, it's really hard to say. He's the only one who really has any kind of idea which way he's leaning. So that will be something to watch over the course of the next year or two. Oh, Mitchell, thanks very much. Thanks for saying that. It's very nice of you to put that out there. Your thoughts on our running backs. Dennis, I think they're in a really good spot. I'll be interested to see if Devontae Mays gets any time on Sunday now that Aaron Jones has missed another day of practice with that knee injury. Obviously, Mays put the ball on the ground twice against the Ravens, and we haven't seen him since. I think it'd be really good for him to get some positive kind of tape put out there and momentum going into the offseason for both him and the coaching staff, because this summer he was I thought their best runner, the most violent, the most physical. I'd like to see him get going a little bit against Detroit, but he's got to hold on to the football. I mean, that's job A number 1. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for the questions. I'm sorry if I didn't get to yours. They do go by rather fast, but make sure you're checking out PackersNews.com for all the latest. Like I said, my latest podcast is up. We've got all the latest from the practice today and throughout the week. And make sure you check out all of our coverage of the 50th anniversary of the Ice Bowl. We've been doing stuff each and every week this month. It's kind of capped off by this amazing piece that Gary D'Amato did. It dropped today online. It'll be in Sunday's paper. It's a 50th anniversary oral history of the Ice Bowl. It's absolutely incredible. If you're a Packers fan and you're interested in the history of the team in any way, shape, or form, I cannot recommend it enough. It's an absolute fantastic read. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a great night. And I'll talk to you guys on Sunday from Detroit. Thanks a lot.